Hello and welcome to Misty Mountain Reads. I'm Anna and this is my husband Luke, who I've commandeered to help me talk about hot takes today. Hot takes.
Sexy takes.
Okay, maybe I'll be doing this by myself. I want to preface this video by saying that I don't want to offend anybody. I probably will. These are my opinions and I view them as my opinions, which means that you can disagree with me and I will not be offended. And I realize that some of these are dividing opinions and that's okay. Some of them are just, they're not really even hot takes. They're just tangents. So we're gonna see how this goes. And yeah. Alright, so you just are going to read those cards to me, and it's going to prompt me to go off.
Okay. Alright. Well, first up, love triangles are not triangles.
This is something that has bothered me for a very long time because love triangles they're not a triangle where one person, all three people are in love with each other. It's one person is in love with two other people, and those two other people don't love each other. They normally hate each other because they're in competition. So it's an angle, right? It's an angle, like a 45, 90 degree angle.
It's like I'm imagining it's a V.
It's a V.
It's a love V.
And usually it's not love, it's lust. And there is a big difference. And it's about picking the person that they feel like that they have better chemistry with, not better relationship with. Sometimes I just feel like love triangles in general are frustrating and annoying, and I end up not liking all three of the characters that are involved because I'm like, just pick somebody, because it's not realistic to real life. Yeah. I feel like it's lazy writing sometimes. Anyway, okay, love triangles are not triangles, they're an angle. A singular angle, not three angles.
The next hot take. Duologies are better than trilogies.
Okay. This is probably gonna anger some people. If you can make the story into 2 books instead of 3, it's going to be better because it's going to be snappier. You're going to get to the end faster. And I'm not saying that the point is to get to the end. But a lot of people write 3 books when they don't need the middle book. The middle book is often filler. Now, not always. I'm going to cover myself.
I was about to say Lord of the Rings.
Yes, this is not a 100% true blanket statement that applies to every series. However, I have found that I greatly prefer duologies because they don't ramble so much and there's not so much filler that you don't need and going off on tangents. Very boring. I just don't like that series.
I know you don't. You've ranted to me about it so much now.
Yeah.
We're going to skip this one.
No, you have to read it. It's your job.
Hot take. Luke should buy me more books.
I don't think that this one needs more elaboration, but I do think that it is true.
Do you see any room on these shelves?
There's some room on that shelf over there.
That's because the books are downstairs. Anyways. Enemies to lovers and slow burn are overused labels. You're gonna anger some people with this one.
But it's okay. This one, I hold true to this one, and I mean, you can argue with me in the comments if you want to. But there is a lot of books out there that are labeled as either slow burn and or enemies to lovers that are not those labels. People like to slap those things to sell books, and it's not always true. Book Talk is really bad about this, about saying something is slow burn. I heard a book described as slow burn the other day, and there's not even romance in it. If a book has a main plot of being a slow burn romance and or enemies to lovers, then it can have that label. The Bridge Kingdom. enemies to lovers. That is 100% what it is as a story. However, there are so many books that you guys are saying that it's enemies to lovers, and it's more like casual acquaintances that sort of dislike each other to lovers. And that's a different category entirely. But like two people who hate each other at the beginning of the book hate each other, and then they love each other. Not, oh, I don't really like you that much. That's not the same thing. It's not the same development of emotions. It's not as strong of emotion. Anyway, okay, it's just don't use that label if it doesn't apply because you're misleading people. And it's rude. Okay.
Immortal characters should not act like humans.
This is something that genuinely really bugs me because there's a lot of books right now. Popular fantasy has latched onto this idea of immortality. And with immortality, you live outside of time, essentially, because time passes differently for you when it has no meaning. Like, there is no end, right? So maybe if it's the start of their immortality, like they just became immortal, that makes sense for them to still act like humans. However, if they've been alive for 500 years to a century or to 1,000 years, a millennia, whatever, you no longer know what it means to have a fleeting life, to have to live in the moment, right? We have 70, 80 years if we're lucky. It's very different than like forever. And so you're going to view life very differently. Your emotions are going to be very different. I would argue that immortality makes you emotionless because there is no consequences anymore. A show that does this really well, Altered Carbon, really, really, really dives into what happens to a person when you take death out of the equation, and how corrupt they become. After watching that show, I think it's that show that really changed or gave me this strong feeling about it.
Favorite story, like honestly one of my favorite stories.
Yes.
It's so well done. At least the first season. The second season, they kind of...
It's very dark.
Yes.
But it's very dark because they talk about what happens to people who don't have death ever. Like, there's no consequences to your actions, you just keep moving on. There's a lot of characters who are immortal, but they can't die, right? Like, they can still... Their life goes on until someone kills them, essentially. That is how most of these characters are written. I don't understand how you act like a teenager when you've been alive for 1,000 years. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Twilight.
Yeah, I was thinking of Court of Thorn and Roses, but you haven't read that, so...
I haven't read Twilight either.
They're all act like they're like 18, 19, 20. Like, you don't... Despite the fact that your body stopped aging, your brain didn't. Like, you're still experiencing all of these life things. You would be matured by that, you would think, and no longer act like a 25-year-old who's drunk all... Anyway, I'm done. Moving on.
And finally, last hot take. Torture should have lasting ramifications. I've heard your rant about this one.
Okay. I went off on this one because I read a series, and I'm not going to name it because I feel like it would be a spoiler. I read a series where a main character goes through extensive torture. Now, torture as a plot point in general is a little iffy for me. In fantasy, I think that it does occasionally make sense that the evil villain would torture to get information. Okay, I don't want to dwell on it. It really, really, really bothers me when a character we're supposed to accept as human, with human lifespan, human brain, human emotions, all of that, gets tortured for months on end without any reprieve and comes out of it and is fine. Absolutely fine. No ramifications, no consequences to their physical health, to their mental health. They're like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I can keep moving on and being the same person I was before, and I'm not struggling with PTSD or the trauma that would come from literally getting no relief from being mentally and physically tortured for months. Please explain to me how that is acceptable and or believable as a plot. Like, what? Who could ever go through that and be okay? It's not relatable.
No.
And it makes me be like, well, this is not a real, like, obviously it's fantasy, it's not real, I know that. But I want to be able to relate to this character and be like, oh, I understand what they're going through. Obviously, I've not been tortured. But, well, being married to you is kind of... Anyway.
I'll see myself out. It's just...
Anyway, I believe that if a character is tortured, they should deal with the emotional trauma, physical trauma that comes from that. So if you as a writer are going to write that into your plot, you have to be aware that there will be consequences for your actions.
It helps if you get tortured. As a writer, if you get tortured, that really, you know, kind of like method acting.
Okay, we're just gonna... You could have left. That was a hot take.
I mean, are you saying it wouldn't help you write?
I'm saying that that is, wow, morally gray character energy from you right now. Okay, now that I probably lost a lot of subscribers from that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching. Okay, I feel like that is probably enough for today. I'm a little sweaty now. I got worked up. And I hope that you all don't hate me. So, yeah. See you next time, hopefully.